Your thermometer climbs past 95 degrees, your garden begins to droop, your tomato blossoms fall before they ever turn into fruit, your lettuce bolts overnight, and there you are, with a hose in your hand, wondering whether anything you planted is going to make it through what's coming. That exact feeling, that particular kind of frustration, is the whole reason for this video. Most gardeners buy whatever looks appealing at the nursery in springtime, then spend the hottest stretch of the year watching it wither. The gardener isn't the problem, the plants are. Trying to outlast summer heat is fighting the wrong battle entirely. The smarter move is choosing crops that were already engineered for it by nature. Plants native to the harshest, driest corners of the planet. Crops that hit their peak production exactly when the temperature refuses to budge. Today, I'm walking you through 8 of them. Not merely heat-resistant, but heat-driven. Hit subscribe on Primal Life and turn on notifications right now. Every week, we break down what genuinely works in real garden conditions, not theory. Stay with me, because one crop on this list actually yields more under a punishing 100-degree sun than it does in cooler weather. And another one I completely neglected for 3 straight weeks, no water at all, expecting to find it dead. Instead, I found it thriving, bigger, fuller, dripping with fruit. That single moment reshaped how I approach summer growing altogether. Let's begin with tomatoes, because here's something that catches nearly every gardener off guard the first time they hear it. Tomatoes were never a cool climate crop that merely puts up with summer. Their wild ancestors come from the scorching, arid highlands of South America, and when you grow them the way nature intended, summer heat isn't working against them. It's powering them. The real issue gardeners run into with tomatoes during a heat wave usually has nothing to do with temperature itself. It's irregular watering. Uneven moisture combined with intense heat triggers blossom drop, where the plant abandons its flowers before fruit can even form, wiping out your harvest before it begins. Soak the soil thoroughly one day, skip it the next, water again 2 days later, and the plant burns all its energy reacting to stress rather than growing fruit. Switch to deep, steady watering at the base every single day once temperatures pass 90, and the problem disappears. It isn't about pouring on more water, it's about keeping it consistent. That one adjustment is the difference between a tomato plant barely surviving the season and dominating it. When the heat gets serious, variety selection matters far more than most gardening advice admits. Cultivars like Heatmaster, Solar Fire, and Arkansas Traveler were specifically bred to keep setting fruit at temperatures that shut down ordinary varieties completely. Heatmaster, in particular, was created for deep south growing conditions and continues producing near 105 degrees, a point where most plants would simply give up for the season. Pile mulch generously around the base, 4 to 6 inches of straw spreading out roughly 18 inches from the stem, and you'll drop soil temperature at the root zone by as much as 10 degrees, which keeps that consistent watering schedule actually holding steady through the brutal stretches. Biting into the first ripe tomato of summer, still warm from the vine, eaten right where it grew, is one of those small moments that reminds you exactly why growing your own food is worth it. Nail the consistency, and that moment is yours every single hot season from here forward. Peppers come next, and they have a relationship with heat unlike anything else on this list. Most vegetables simply tolerate it. Peppers actively respond to it. The more brutal the summer gets, the more intense the flavor, the heavier the yield, and the more vivid the harvest becomes. Here's the science behind it. Capsaicin, the chemical compound that gives hot peppers their kick, gets produced in larger amounts when the plant is under heat stress. A jalapeno grown during a mild, forgiving summer ends up only moderately spicy. That exact same variety, pushed through a genuinely harsh summer, produces fruit that's noticeably hotter and far more layered in flavor. The heat you're suffering through in your garden is, quite literally, transferring straight into the pepper. Sit with that for a second. Every miserable, sweat-soaked, relentlessly hot day your garden endures this summer is being absorbed by your pepper plant and converted into flavor. The hardship of the season becomes the quality of what you eventually harvest. There's something almost poetic about a vegetable that takes the worst part of summer and turns it into its finest output.
Sweet bell peppers operate a bit differently, but benefit just as much. They require sustained warmth to fully size up, deepen in color, and develop that signature sweetness. Grown through a hot summer, they ripen into red, yellow, or orange faster, and with noticeably more natural sugar than peppers raised in mild conditions. Start your pepper seeds indoors 8 to 10 weeks ahead of your last expected frost, since they're slow to get going and need that head start. Move them outside once nighttime temperatures stay reliably above 55 degrees. Water deeply, but let the soil dry out a bit between sessions. Peppers actually prefer moderate moisture and crop more heavily when given occasional mild stress, rather than constant dampness. Varieties like California Wonder, Carmen, and Cajun Belle deliver consistently. A single productive plant will hand you more peppers across one hot summer than most households can realistically eat fresh. The heat improved every last one of them. That's the bargain summer strikes with peppers, and peppers never fail to keep their end of it. Then there's watermelon, which never adapted to drought, it evolved inside it. The wild ancestors behind every watermelon you've ever tasted trace back to the Kalahari Desert in southern Africa, one of the harshest, driest landscapes on the continent. Drought isn't an obstacle watermelon pushes through, it's the exact condition the plant was shaped by. That origin story changes everything about how you should approach growing it. You're not babysitting a fragile fruit through tough conditions. You're handing a desert-born plant the summer it's been waiting its whole evolutionary history for. Where you live shapes your planting approach, but never whether it's possible. Across the warmer southern regions, zones 8 through 11, watermelon goes straight into warm ground, and the long, intense heat does the heavy lifting. Up in cooler northern zones, 5 through 7, start your seeds indoors 3 weeks before transplanting and lay down black plastic mulch to heat the soil faster. You're giving the plant a boost, not battling nature. Always plant directly in open ground rather than containers. Watermelons need real room to spread their extensive root systems, and that's part of what makes them so drought resilient in the first place. The deeper those roots travel, the more moisture they can reach that shallow-rooted plants never get close to. And here's the part most guides get backwards. Once the fruit starts forming, somewhere between golf ball and softball size, cut your watering back noticeably. Heavy, constant watering during fruit development just produces oversized, watery, low-sugar melons. Pulling back water as they mature concentrates the sugar in the flesh instead. The payoff is a watermelon sweet enough that slicing it open in your backyard on a scorching afternoon becomes one of the truly great small pleasures of summer. You grew it from a desert plant, let the heat do its job, and the heat handed you back something remarkable. Okra is the crop I mentioned earlier, the one that actually produces more heavily in 100-degree heat than during mild weather. And gardeners who've grown it through brutal summers consistently describe it the same way: unstoppable. That's not an exaggeration. Okra is the rare common vegetable that genuinely speeds up production as the heat intensifies. While tomatoes slow down past 95 and cucumbers struggle above 90, okra hits those exact temperatures and just produces faster. The hotter the day gets, the quicker the pods develop. At the peak of summer, one mature plant can hand you a harvestable pod every 24 to 48 hours, continuously, for months at a stretch. The explanation goes back roughly 3,500 years. Okra traces its roots to Northeast Africa and South Asia, where farmers have grown it through extreme heat and unpredictable rainfall since long before recorded agriculture existed. Its entire biology was tuned for the exact conditions that wreck everything growing around it. This isn't a plant adjusting to your rough summer, it's a plant returning home. Sow seeds straight into the ground, since okra does best with direct sowing rather than transplants, and the soil needs to be at least 65 degrees. Soak seeds in water for 12 hours before planting, and germination noticeably speeds up, a step that costs nothing but a little patience and often cuts your wait time in half. Now the rule that matters most.
Harvest every pod once it reaches 3 to 4 inches every 2 days. No exceptions. Miss a harvest window and let one pod mature on the plant, and the plant reads that as a signal the season is winding down, dropping production sharply. Pick everything young and stay consistent, and the plant behaves like summer never has to end. Clemson Spineless remains the standard choice, while Burgundy brings extra visual flair with its red pods and edible leaves. 3,500 years of adapting to heat, and it's still unstoppable, still producing long after everything else has thrown in the towel. Sweet potato gave me one of my favorite garden stories. The summer I grew them was the same summer I barely showed up as a gardener at all. I planted the slips in late spring, watered them maybe once beyond whatever rain provided, and then got completely swallowed up by everything else demanding attention. The tomatoes that needed tending, the peppers that needed feeding, the lawn that needed mowing. That sweet potato bed got nothing extra. No supplemental watering, no fertilizer, no real attention through the worst heat of the year. Come fall, I walked back over to that bed with a garden fork, mostly out of guilt, and pulled up the single most abundant harvest of my entire season. Big, deeply orange, perfectly shaped sweet potatoes from a bed I had essentially walked away from. That wasn't luck. That's just this plant's biology doing exactly what it evolved to do. When heat and drought show up, which they certainly did that summer, sweet potatoes redirect their energy downward into the tubers. The tougher the conditions get, the harder the plant focuses on producing the part you actually eat. Neglect doesn't shrink the harvest. In plenty of cases, it actually boosts it. Now for the practical side, which flows naturally from that story. Sweet potatoes grow from slips, small, rooted shoots sprouting off the parent tuber. And the same process behind my neglected bed's success starts with nothing more than a jar of water on a sunny windowsill. Set a sweet potato in water early in spring, leave it somewhere warm and bright, and within 2 to 3 weeks, shoots will sprout from the top. Once those shoots reach 4 to 6 inches, twist them free and plant them straight into your garden. That's your slip. And that's how your own summer of benign neglect can begin. Sweet potatoes thrive in every USDA zone from 3 through 11, the widest range of any crop on this list, covering essentially every state in the country. In colder northern zones, start your slips indoors early. In zones 7 through 11, they need almost no babysitting whatsoever. Harvest in late summer through fall, once the vines start yellowing. Cure the tubers for about 10 days in a warm, humid space before storing them, which converts starches into sugar and builds that sweetness. Plant them, then mostly leave them be. Summer handles the rest. Pumpkins get most people thinking about October, but the gardeners who actually succeed with them start planting in spring, since a great fall harvest depends entirely on a summer planting. And that planting depends on understanding one timing detail most guides skip right past. Pumpkins need anywhere from 90 to 120 days to fully mature. Plant once the soil has warmed consistently after your last frost, and your harvest will land exactly when fall arrives. Right as vines naturally die back, fruits hit full color, and both porch decorating season and winter cooking season kick off together. The blazing summer isn't an obstacle to work around here. It's the exact growing window that makes the fall payoff possible. Sow seeds directly into the ground using hills, a traditional method that clusters 3 to 4 seeds together on a raised mound of enriched soil. That mound drains better, warms quicker, and concentrates nutrients in a way that speeds up early growth. Plant in the most exposed, sun-baked spot available. Pumpkins want every bit of that exposure. Spacing matters too. A standard variety can spread 8 to 10 feet in every direction. If you're tight on space, Bush Sugar Baby and Cinderella stay much more compact while still delivering full-sized, worthwhile fruit. Keep watering consistently through fruit development, since pumpkins are heavy feeders that need steady moisture to build large fruit. Then, once the vines start naturally yellowing in early fall, cut the water off entirely. That final dry stretch toughens the rind, concentrates flavor inside the flesh, and dramatically extends how long it'll store. A pumpkin grown in your own yard sitting on your porch come October carries the entire story of what that summer produced. Not just a decoration, but proof of heat endured, of something planted and cared for, of a season that gave back exactly what you invested in it.
Cucumbers have an unfair reputation for struggling in heat, and that reputation comes almost entirely from one mistake: picking the wrong variety. Standard slicing cucumbers do slow down past 90 degrees, but heat-tolerant types thrive in the very same conditions. Diva, Marketmore 76, and Armenian cucumber, a variety cultivated in the arid Middle East for thousands of years before it ever reached American gardens, shrug off heat and drought that would stop ordinary types cold. Plant in full sun after your last frost once the soil has warmed. Train cucumbers to climb vertically up a trellis, fence, or basic cage instead of letting them sprawl across the ground. Growing vertically improves airflow around the leaves, cuts down on the fungal issues that attack ground-level foliage during humid summer heat, and makes every single fruit easy to spot and harvest. That visibility leads directly to the one rule that determines whether your cucumber harvest turns out spectacular or disappointing. Pick every cucumber the moment it reaches usable size, without exception. Just one cucumber left to yellow and over-ripen on the vine tells the plant its reproductive job is finished, and production slows almost instantly. Harvest daily during peak season, and the plant keeps producing as though summer has no end in sight. Fall behind even a few days, and that window closes faster than you'd expect. Here's the payoff for staying on top of it. A cucumber picked from your own vine and eaten within the hour has a crispness that vanishes within a day of harvest, the kind of freshness a grocery store cucumber never has. That snap, that brightness, belongs to you every single day you keep up the harvest. And finally, eggplant, the one I mentioned at the very start. The summer I forgot to water mine, I went back expecting a dead plant. What I found instead was thriving, bigger than when I'd left it, fuller in foliage, hanging heavy with deep purple fruit. I stood there staring at it for a good long moment before it clicked what had actually happened. Solanum melongena, eggplant, originates in South Asia and has been cultivated across India for more than 4,000 years through a climate of intense monsoon heat, followed by long, punishing dry stretches. The small plant sitting in a plastic pot at your local nursery carries 4,000 years of adaptation to precisely the conditions your summer creates. When drought and heat hit together, eggplant doesn't struggle. It recognizes the season and simply knows what to do. Practically speaking, variety choice still matters. Black Beauty is the classic American eggplant, large, glossy, and dependable across every hot summer state. Ichiban, a Japanese variety, grows long and slender with a sweeter, more delicate taste that changes how you think about the vegetable entirely. Both go into the ground in full sun after your last frost, late May into early June in zones 5 through 7, as early as April in zones 8 through 11. Full sun, dark mulch to warm the soil, deep watering once or twice weekly. That's the entire care routine. Now here's something the grocery store never tells you. Eggplant starts developing bitterness within 24 to 48 hours of being picked. The bitterness that makes some people swear they dislike eggplant is almost entirely a result of age. A fruit picked days earlier, hauled through refrigerated transport, sitting on a shelf. An eggplant picked from your own plant and cooked the same day is an entirely different vegetable. Silky, mild, almost buttery once roasted. The ingredient those people think they hate doesn't actually exist in your garden. 4,000 years of thriving in heat, 3 weeks with 0 water, and still loaded with fruit. The most forgiving plant on this whole list, and the one that tastes most unrecognizable from the store-bought version once you grow and eat it fresh yourself. That's your summer garden. 8 vegetables built for the kind of heat that breaks everything else. And now you know exactly which ones they are. 8 crops, every one of them engineered for heat. Every one producing its absolute best right when summer turns most brutal. Stop fighting your summer. Garden with it instead. Drop a comment and let me know which one you're planting first. I read every single one. See you in the next video.